Welcome back to the 2018 season. Amazing how they come and they go. So, but we're really excited to be here and really anxious to get things started in the morning with our first practice and get through the media day to day and the pictures and doing what we're doing right now. So, just want to kind of start with the roster update. You know, as you may have noticed, we NCAA changed the rule to go from 105 to 110 on our fall camp roster. So they added 5 spots. So that was a good thing, and allowed us to be able to bring in 5 additional players to fall camp that we've had in the past. So that's why the numbers are larger. And so, but we also have a couple young men that are not going to be in that group due to some medical setbacks. And so LaShawn Minor and Grayson Stover are both going to be guys that won't be, you wouldn't notice them out there practicing right now due to some medical situations. But other than that, we're ready to roll and have a strong 110 guys ready to have great fall camps together. Also, some changes. We've made a couple title changes for some coaches. Just want to make sure we put that out here. And Coach Mike Hart is going to be, he will be the running backs coach, as he has been, but he will also be the assistant head coach and have that role. And then Mark Hagan has been titled assistant defense coordinator. He's now co-defense coordinator in terms of his title. So 2 guys that worked extremely hard, do a great job for us, and really excited about our staff. You know, we've talked about the guys we've added since last season, and really excited about the guys that are here with us and ready to have an awesome fall camp. It's a very important time for us with a lot of new faces that we have, and so really important reps and meetings and film study and evaluation. So very important next couple of weeks for us as we continue to progress and build our program. So questions at this time?
We asked about it a little bit in Chicago. I guess first a procedural question with the 4 games. That can be spread out in any way, right? It's not like you have to target it or pre-report it. Or
no, you don't know ahead of time. It's just, and if a kid steps on the field, that counts as a game. You know, so you've got to be, you know, you have to have a good plan. We've already, even in our meeting room area, we have kind of some areas where we've designated certain guys, and you never know how that's going to play out. You know, certain guys will change their status maybe, just like any situation where you thought a guy may or may not redshirt, and at this point coming in, everybody's, you know, no one's been designated to say, hey, this guy's redshirting or not, but you have to prepare them reps in special teams for sure, and then reps on offense and defense during fall camp while you have a little extra time to get them seasoned. So when you do plan to use them, and you know, it may be the first 4 games, it could be the middle 4 games, it could be the last 4 games, it could be a bowl game, and so yeah, that's pretty open-ended with the new rule, and they just can't play any more than 4.
How much do you use that as maybe motivation for a guy who in the past would have been scout team early on and maybe by a certain point in the season would have mentally sort of switched to the off season already knowing he probably wasn't going to see the field?
I think that's a big part of it, you know, and I think that as you look at the rule, and it obviously benefits the student athlete in a big way, benefits the coaching staff for us to be able to have that flexibility, but I think from a motivational perspective, there's no question. I mean, he has to be ready, you know, and because before you're kind of, you know, do you play him, do you not? Do you know, use a whole year for just a few snaps? We obviously would not unless you had to, and so now they're going to know, hey, I can play 4 games, and so every freshman in my mind has to be ready, and that's how we're going to approach it. We're telling them that too. You never know what's going to happen, and so now it's realistic that they can play and get in there, even if they do get limited reps. The preparation for that is important, and their focus in the meetings and just what they do. And sometimes, you know, I don't care how, you know, highly motivated they are. Once you kind of figure out that you're probably redshirting, it's hard. You know, it is challenging, and it's not that they don't do a good job, but it's just, you know, in the past that's been a challenge to be able for them to every single. That's why you try to recognize those guys when they're with your look teams and keep them motivated each week. But now it's totally different. So they definitely have to be, you know, on call and ready to be called up, as some people have looked at it, you know, to be able to get a chance to play on a game day. And so I'm excited about it. I think the rule is very, very good for our game, and helps us, and it also affects player safety and all the guys that we can utilize if we have, you know, some injuries along the way.
Coach, what does it mean for you as a staff, actually, to be able to make game plans week in, week out, knowing you have that in your arsenal as an additional depth tool?
It does, and I've clearly stated, this off season, that's been one of our focal points of, allowing us to be able to change the outcome of our games as happened in the past, and the depth has been a challenge for us, and so to me it's a huge asset, and I think that as coaches, but the thing we have to remember, and the part that's going to be challenging is that you still have limitations. When you're on the road, you can dress 70 guys for conference games, so you can't just take unlimited guys, and so you have to make sure the right ones are ready to play, in those positions. And it's just not throwing them in there just to throw them in there. They got to be ready to contribute and help you win those home games, away games, whatever. So I just think that it's just caused us to really have a proactive approach to getting guys prepared. So we got to do more of it.
And you're coming back in your second season now. You got the first season, you got that experience under you. You're coming back with a pretty good team, a great offense that could be very prolific. What's it going to mean for you now to get that year of experience under your belt as a head coach and be able to make more decisions going forward?
Yeah, I think anytime you do something a second time, you learn from things that mistakes you may have made, or things you say, it wasn't a mistake, but it was, hey, I would do it a little differently, and we have, and you go back and reevaluate. So I think that there's just a comfort level, of knowing, what's next, and you've been through it before, and I think those are important, whether it's during the game or whether it's in your preparation and how you utilize your assistants and just how you run your program. We've added some off the field guys that have helped us in recruiting, and so I just think that I just feel a lot more comfortable in this position, and you feel like you're in a better position to maximize, your players. And obviously offensively we have a lot of guys returning, and our entire offensive staff is returned intact as well, which gives you a lot of great continuity in a lot of ways. And then defensively we've had a couple new faces, and one with the 10th coach rule, and then a lot of potential to have new faces on the defense, but guys that have been around, they're just waiting their turn, and now they have the opportunity to rise up, and you sprinkle in some true freshmen that we believe have a chance to give us depth, and also maybe be competing to start early on. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, you just feel like that. I was excited about going into last year for sure, but there are a lot of unknowns, and a lot of things that cause you to be really anxious just because you don't know, because you haven't done it in that role before at this level. So going in year 2, I feel a lot better.
How much of a challenge is it to get those 3 guys in the quarterback room, the reps they're going to need before quarterback?
It will be, and I think we've gone through and structured practice accordingly, and have gone and expanded certain drills to include, maybe even two separate groups going at the same time, so you can get more guys reps, and so you get them on film, and there's no question. I mean, that's going to be the priority, is for us to be able to create practice opportunities where those 3 guys will be given equal opportunity to prove what they can do, and then whether, you take, for instance, when you go through and do a 2-minute type drill at the end of practice, or wherever you choose to do it within the practice, and I can see us setting up 3 of those. We'll do, instead of just doing 2 like we usually have done in the past, we're going to do 3, just to be able to have a chance for all 3 guys to be able to take their shot and move the football. So I just think everything that we do, as we plan, and we go through these next several practices, it's going to be a big priority to get those guys lots of reps.
Is there a point where you ideally like to whittle down that competition to 2?
You do, and I don't want to put a time frame on it. I don't want it to be all the way till the final day, before we would play, So, but I think that you'd like to be able to feel good about it. We're going to have to let things play out as they do throughout practice and throughout fall camp, and we'll see. But yeah, I think that as soon as you feel good about it, I think you'd like to be able to make a decision and move forward, and we'll make that known when it comes. And I think that the biggest thing we can do with our players too is just be open and honest with them, and like we have from the very beginning, and let those guys compete. I think we got 3 guys that are all really talented players, have different skill sets, but they also get along really well, which has been neat to see. You got a guy coming in brand new to the program last January, and Mike Penix, and then you got Brandon Dawkins, who comes in brand new this summer and meshing with our team, and just being just good teammates and working well together. And that's what you want to see. Obviously they're competing, they all want to play, so it's a sensitive balance, I think, but at the same time you got some maturity there, and Coach Sheridan will do a great job managing that, and I'll do the same as the head coach.
You're running.
Here, and
I mean, it's human nature. You expect that he wants to play
Yep.
when you use grad transfer year. What if anything has been told?
Well, from the very beginning, I think that you know, he was told that obviously you bring a guy in with his kind of experience and his age that he's coming here to compete to play. He's coming here to be the starting quarterback. That was his mindset. But we told him he's going to come here and earn it. You know, he's going to have to win the trust of his teammates. He's going to have to compete on the field, make plays, and prove that he's the guy. You know, and he knew exactly what our depth chart looked like. You know, the guys we had on our roster, and we went over that with him. And I was careful to make sure we got to know him as a person and make phone calls and find people that have spent a lot more time with him than we have, you know, because he's been there for many years and has had opportunities to show his leadership and show how he handles being the starter, how does he handle the positives when you win, how does he handle the setbacks and things that have happened in his career. So I think those are critical parts that we looked at. And I just think more than anything, it's just being open and honest with him about expectations for that position and coming in here and competing and helping us become a better football team. And that to me was from the beginning was that we were looking for a guy that has the attitude, I want you to expect to be the guy. You have to have that mindset. I want all three of those guys to have that mindset. But also, hey, this is about helping this football team win football games. And that's really what he's brought here, and he's got a great personality about him, and he's fun to be around. He's got natural leadership qualities for sure, and I just think that we're just looking for that guy that had that, you know, was a good fit, you know, for our current situation, and he seemed to be the one. And when we recruited him, and obviously we felt that way, and he joined us, so we're really excited he's here.
You spoke in Chicago about the need to be a better running team. What do you see on this team that gives you optimism in that regard?
Well, step number one in that thought process was our offensive line. You know, we knew we needed to get them stronger. We needed to get some guys healthy from the offseason. We needed to grow our depth. You know, I know it's an area that last year was hit hard with injuries from the very beginning. Even before we started fall camp, we got hit with some, and so that hurt us last year. But the ability for all the reps that those guys got in game is going to help us now. You know, so seeing their growth and then listening to our strength staff tell me week after week that, hey, this is the best group. You know, this is the strength of our team right here, and in terms of leadership and work ethic and mindset and just the way that they come to the weight room every single day to train. So that was encouraging. So that to me, the step one was, you know, getting that offensive line, you know, at a point where you knew they needed to be, you know, in terms of setting the tone for our offense. And then number two, you know, we've got all three running backs back that led us last year in rushing, and Mike Majette is healthy, you know, and want to keep him that way, and just to be able to, you know, the success that Morgan had as a freshman, to be able to challenge him to take it to another level and to step up and continue to grow and improve, and Cole and his development, and you know, he got dinged up last year, but showed signs of doing some great things. So, and I think also the fact that we have three quarterbacks that have the skill set to be able to run the football, you know, and so those things there were really, in my mind, gives me, you know, a lot of encouragement, and, you know, they obviously got to go out and execute and talk them and evaluating everything last season. I mean, I think that's an area that really sets you back when you don't run the ball well. You know, it creates a lot of third and longs for you, which are hard. I don't care who you play against. We played, you know, a lot of the top defenses in the country, so it's very, very difficult to convert those. And then, you know, it puts you, you know, behind the chains in a lot of different ways, and it just creates a different feel. You get short yardage, you get in the goal line, you get in red zone, and when you can't run the football effectively, then it really limits you, you know. And so I just think that those, you know, our red zone efficiency is affected by it, and that's a big area of focus for us this offseason, as well as running the ball and just being a more explosive offense. And so those are the things that we looked at, and now we got to go do it, you know. And obviously this next several weeks here is going to be big as our offensive line gels and we figure out who the starters are going to be, and having a good, strong 2 deep, which we have the makings for that right now on paper, and we've got to, you know, bring that to fruition throughout practice. Coach Hiller is going to do a tremendous job, you know, gelling those guys. We got some great leadership in that room with you know, Wes and Brandon as two guys that have played a lot of football here for us. And bring in Nick Linder, that's a new guy, and a graduate transfer that has leadership and just a stability to us, and just some continuity. Hunter Littlejohn's really worked extremely hard and played a bunch of snaps last year. And Coy's played a lot of snaps, and just on and on and on. Guys have really done a good job. And Delroy's a guy that can play inside, outside. He's had to play a lot of different spots. And so just a group of guys that I believe in, and I think have a tremendous character to them, and looking forward to seeing them have a great season.
Talked about it a little bit in the offseason, but as you can now look back at the winter, the spring, the summer, Coach Blue and Dr. Ray, just how big of an impact do you feel like they're going to have on this team's preparedness, I guess, for the season?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. The numbers are what they are. You can go through and look at them on paper, and it's one thing about the weight room. It's pretty objective in a lot of ways. You get stronger, and you can see those numbers grow, and we've gotten a lot stronger since last time we played, and that's very encouraging. And I knew we needed to, and it's not so much just the raw strength; it's the explosive power, the way we train, the way that we developed it. It's not just sitting there doing 1 rep maxes and feeling like, hey, we're just stronger. It's just a very, very functional program that really challenged our guys with single leg movements and change of direction and explosive things. And it's just a whole myriad of a philosophy change that allowed our guys to really, and they'll be the first ones to tell you. I know you guys have talked to them here a little bit before, and I had some of our players talk when I spoke up in Chicago with one of our events for our boosters and fans. And so it was just neat to hear the guys talk about how they feel and how they've trained. And then the other part is just every workout we had a finisher. And I sat down with Coach Blue ahead of time. I said, I want just something different every single day that's going to stress our guys, that's going to cause them to be able to have to dig deep. And he did a bunch of great things. I'm sure our guys didn't think they were great things, but I did. And we just wanted to be able to put our guys in position late in the workout when they're already fatigued to be able to dig deeper and finish. And it's just something that's going to continue throughout fall camp. So they gave us that foundation as a strength staff. And I just think anytime you physically, those that have been around this game know the physical piece gives you confidence, and there's a confidence about our guys right now because they know they're bigger, faster, stronger, more explosive, and they feel that way, and it affects your mindset, And so I think that's been another big, benefit of Coach Blue and Dr. Ray and the work they've done, and all the strength coaches and the rest of the staff, as the guys who are already here and have bought in and worked extremely hard because because of our numbers and wanting to get individualized work with our players, which we felt was so critical. We added more lift groups, which caused our coaching staff to have to work harder and longer and work with less guys at one time, so no guy could ever hide. Every rep was accountable, whether it's because of technology or because of physical eyes on that guy. And we really focused on our defensive line and our offensive line, and just knew that we had to grow in our strength in both of those areas to be able to be the kind of defense we want to be and the kind of offense we want to be, because it all starts up front. So just really dove into that, and then Dr. Ray really was the one that dove into our speed and took our guys and worked with them individually, and they just worked their tails off. I mean, the way they personalize the workouts it takes time to do that, and that's where they're just different than anybody I've ever been around, and just really encouraged by the growth. Obviously, we're going to keep building. That's one thing I think we've changed our schedule, this year to where our Sunday is going to be our off day, and the big reason for that is due to the from a scientific perspective of rest and recovery and maximization of workouts, and the whole we go through and Dr. Ray calls it priming, and we sat down together and we got the whole schedule mapped out, and it'll change the way we do things throughout the season so we can be at our very best, in November, and so in order to finish. And so it's just, everything has been kind of, I think changed because of their influence, and I'm really excited about, them being here, and they're two men that love Indiana, and obviously Dave playing here and loving his, university and wants to be here and has a lot of pride in wanting us to play at a high level, and so just having that is just personal to him, and I think that's a big deal, and really excited about the work they've done. Obviously now we gotta, you gotta go play football, and you got skills have to be developed and those things, but it starts in that way. And, in my experience in being a long-time high school coach, I was always in the weight room as a high school coach. That was just kind of my area of not necessarily expertise, but I had a strong, interest there. Spent a lot of time there, a lot of time studying it, and kind of knew what I wanted to do there, and I just think that's where you build your team. You know, individuals are developed, they're made in the off season, teams are made in the season, and so those individuals had to change their bodies, and we have a lot of evidence that they have, and now they got to go out and play with that same confidence and play fast. You know, so that's so kind of in a nutshell. I know it kind of took a long time on that, but I do think there's a lot of layers to it, and I think that it was a major change in our program to bring those guys here, and you ask our players, they've been a game changer for us.
How's your perspective altered this offseason, given the Tigre and Cub have moved on, then in the offseason saw Raekwon have the kind of spring he had, then you learn Willis is coming back, then you learn that Roof is eligible. How's your perspective changed on that in that room?
Yeah, it was, you know, as a defensive guy and linebackers guy, you know, seeing a guy like Tigre and Chris, you know, graduate and move on it's awesome, and you love them, and they're game changers for us on our program for sure. And they were, you know, Tigre was one of the major catalysts for our turnaround defensively, but they're gone, you know, and it's a little bittersweet, you know, and they're just awesome young men, and I love being around them. But you know, their time has come here, and they're now, you know, playing for 2 NFL teams, which is great. So, but that means someone's got to rise up, you know. And so I really was very encouraged by Raekwon's response, you know. And he's a guy that sometimes when you sit in the shadows, some guys sit back there and, you know, have a different response to it. He's had a lot of injuries along the way, and he's just really never. I don't think he's ever been full bore since I've been here. You know, it's always kind of been something, and didn't get a lot of snaps because Tigre was so effective, but it hurt us that we didn't have. He played too many snaps, you know, and it took its toll throughout the season. So, but to see Raekwon do what he did, you know, this offseason, just absolutely take ownership of his body, and you know, obviously the benefit of, you know, the strength staff and what they brought to the table. He'd be the first one to tell you he's, you know, benefited in a huge way. It feels really good right now. So he needed to do that. I mean, you lose a guy like Tigre and his production, you got to have somebody else step up. And then, you know, you got Damien's a guy that has played the most football of any of our linebackers, you know, and played valuable time for us in the 2 years I've been here. I started in the bowl game, you know, my first year here, and so a guy that I'm really excited to have, you know, back with us. And I think that, you know, that was huge for that room, for sure, and his leadership. And he's got to now go. You know, he's not going to start out first team. You know, he's wasn't here with us in the spring. And so, you know, Mike McGinnis was the starter coming out of spring, and Thomas Allen's behind him. And those 3 guys are going to compete to be the ninth linebacker. You know, we'll see how that all plays out. But just having his experience, you know, is big. And he's made plays. And he's played against, and he started, you know, we used a lot of our base defense against Michigan this past year, and he was in there for all those and making plays, you know. So that's encouraging. And having TD, you know, being ruled eligible with his transfer was a great thing. Huge boost to our defense. You know, we watched him all spring long. And had he not been here, you may not know quite as much, but you know, seeing him every single day, you know, and how quick he is and how explosive he is. He's gained good several pounds of good weight since he got here, and it's really, even since he's kind of thought that this may happen, it's, you know, he's always been working hard, but I think it even just energized him more, you know, because he has the chance to play, you know. So just really excited. I think it gives us tremendous depth, and once again, he's got to compete with the other guys that are already there, and Mo Burnham's been here, and he wants opportunity, so he's going to have to. You know, competition is, you know, we've not had this kind of depth since I've been here. You ask our players, I mean, it's completely different than the first couple of years I was here, and so that's at all positions, and especially, you know, linebacker, safety, DB. You know, we've got more defensive linemen in the mix, and so on that side of the ball, our depth offensively, same way. You know, so we're just systematically, slowly getting, you know, more depth and getting the roster the way we think it needs to be. But competition makes all of us better. You know, we all need to have somebody that if I'm not doing little things right, then I'm going to lose my job. And that affects the way you practice, that affects the way you watch film, that affects the way you eat, that affects the way you sleep, take care of your bodies, the choices you make off the field. Because if I'm not at the top of my game, then that guy behind me is going to take my job. And there's no better motivator than that. John Wooden figured it out a long time ago, and that's the power of the bench. And everybody wants to play. So, and when you don't have that, it makes it really hard sometimes. And so we've tried to motivate through all that the last couple of seasons, and so we just got to now find a way to get all those guys, in position to compete and ready to play at a high level. So I just think that room is highly competitive right now. A bunch of guys want to play, and we got some freshmen that came in here that I think have that expectation of playing, and they should. And when we recruited those guys, a guy like James Miller, I told him, I said, I'm not going to promise you a starting job. I've never done that at one time, but I've told him I promise you the opportunity to compete, to play early. And so now it's on him, how he's worked his tail off, and we'll see. Cam Dillons is another guy that came here and wants to play, and we'll see what he does. Mike McFadden the same way, and Aaron Casey, all those guys in that room. So it's a talented group of guys, and new faces for sure, but it's their time now, so they got to take the ball and run with it.
What you talked about having to replace 8 players on defense, and you talk about the added depth being there. How important though is it having someone like Marcelino Ball come back? Not just experience, but leadership as well.
I think it's huge, and sometimes it gets lost in the numbers when you talk about how many guys left, and there's no question we lost some really good players that are going to be hard to replace. But he only played in 3 games last year, and so he's not listed as a guy that's one of those returning starters. But obviously he's played a lot of football for us and was a great player before he was injured, and we expect the same coming back. So he's more mature, stronger, and I think he's got a good perspective. Sometimes when you lose what you think is always going to be there, it affects the way you do little things, and I think it was taken from him and had that injury, and so never was able to come back. But I just having him back is a big deal to us now, because he plays a position that's a big part of our scheme. And when we lost him last year, I was really concerned, and just for what Tony Fields did and what our defense, we actually played better on paper after he was gone, which I never would have thought that, and so Tony, we had to make some adjustments, on some things, but it's a tribute to Tony and the kind of player that he was. And so we got to get some depth there. We got to get it to where if something happens with the guy, I don't care who it is, the next guy is ready to come in there and there's not a major drop-off. And that's kind of been an issue in the past, and we have to grow that depth. It's a huge part of our objective this fall camp, is to grow the depth at all positions, but especially on defense, because we've got new guys, and so then obviously the ones behind them are going to be new as well. And I want to see us play more guys. I think that's going to be big. We got to do that, but you got to get them ready. So you have confidence to put them in there and let them go.
You talk about, defenders having to play too many snaps, for example, instead of in the 80s, one more like the 50s and 60s.
Yep.
If you're better able to run the ball, that shortens the game a little bit too, doesn't it?
It does, and that's another variable that I think is oftentimes missed. And that's where I think when you go through, and this is, the whole off season for me was a really big evaluation time, and you go look at what you do, and there's another team in our conference that has led the Big Ten. It's not a team you probably wouldn't even think has, but has led the Big Ten in number of snaps per game and production, and the big key variable, if you go through and study their success, has been that the number of times they run the football and completions. And that's, to me, makes a ton of sense. So you're running the football, even though they've led the league the last 8 years in number of plays per game, which means they're going fast and they play with tempo, which is what I believe in. I do. I just, we're going to continue to do that. We want to control that tempo. We want to be able to speed up or slow down when we need it. And when you can run the football, you've got more control, I believe, over those variables, and you can, be able to stay on the field longer, which keeps your defense off the field. But to me, it's about first downs. It's not so much about, hey, you just want to be slow it down, control the football, keep it away. That's not who we are, but when you run the football well, yes, you take pressure off the defense, by staying out there, more snaps each game. And I think that, but it's about first downs. And that's where when you run the ball better, those third downs become more manageable and your numbers go up. It's just math, and so if you got 3rd and 7 plus a bunch, or you got 3rd and 4 to 5 a bunch, I'd much rather have the 3rd and 4 to 5 if you're on offense. And it's just harder to stop them, as they get, those numbers get smaller. And let's get 3rd and 7 plus defense, you're licking your chops. It should be really hard for the offense to convert. And so, but that's where the running game, yes, comes in, and the clock and being able to take some pressure off the D.